Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. We will be starting in a few minutes as we are expecting a few more participants to join us shortly. All right, so in the meanwhile, while we are waiting, please go ahead and feel free to introduce yourself over chat. You can type in your name, your organization and title, and perhaps you can share your purpose for joining the webinar today as well. All right, I don't see anyone working on the chat as yet, so feel free to go ahead and use your chat. All right, and I see one of our panelists has arrived already. Rohit Shenoy, welcome. Thank you for joining in.
Hi, Sanjay. Thanks for having me. Great to see you.
Same here. All right, I see Subhashish has joined as well. I'm just connecting to the audio. Hi, Subhashish. Welcome to the session. Thanks for joining in.
Hi Sanjay, hi Rohit, hi everyone.
Hi, Shubhashish. Good to meet you.
That makes me comfortable when I see the panelists have arrived. All right, so I can see a few people typing in on the chat. That is awesome. All right, let me invite the others to introduce yourselves over chat. It's always good to know who's in the Zoom, so go ahead. So Rohit and Subhashish, for your information, we are also on Facebook Live. It's being streamed on that, and we have a few participants joining us on Facebook as well.
That's great.
Yeah, great to know that, Sanjay.
Okay, I can see a few participants joining in. So we should be starting in probably 2 minutes. All right, there is Rohit introducing himself. All right, that's a very kind introduction, Rohit. Thank you for sharing that. And Kumkum Agarwal, welcome to the session. Thanks for introducing yourself. All right, friends, we are at 3:30, which is our scheduled start time. We're probably going to request for 1 minute grace time. We just allow other people. You can see a few people trying to join in. So once they all join in, then we'll get started. Okay, I guess more people will keep joining us along the way, but maybe it's time for us to quickly get started. So first of all, good afternoon and a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you for joining in on our Web Wednesdays. So every Wednesday, we do have a little bit of a program that we share with the world, sharing some insights about what we can achieve, right, as a world together. How can we make the world a better place? So one of the topics that we chose for today was about demystifying facilitation. Right, so that's something that we are very, very proud of. We are very happy about as we share more insights about facilitation. So thinking ahead and planning our next 1.5 hours, we do have, as you perhaps have seen in the invite, a panel discussion as well. And we have our two panelists with us, one being Rohit Shenoy, who's the head at Global Leadership Development at DXC Technologies. Amazing, diverse experience, 18 years of corporate experience, all across various HR roles, spread across different diverse segments, multi-geography locations. He's done a lot of great consulting work for so many companies. If I listed them all, I would need 3 slides, but I just narrowed it down to say Infosys, Accenture, Clean Energy, Philips, etc. Right? And you can see that the diversity that he brings from different segments could be very useful when we do have a chat later today on our panel. He's a certified neuro leadership coach and a certified behavioral assessor as well. And our second panelist, Subhashish Sinha, who is the corporate HR, talent management, and OD. He also holds the portfolio of diversity and inclusion at Asian Paints, right? 15 plus years of corporate and academia experience. And that's very unique about him, where he looks at both the corporate side and the research academia side in a multicultural environment. He's worked across MNCs and Indian companies. So he really brings in that blend of knowledge from around the world, but makes it applicable in the Indian environment. Thank you, Subhashish, for joining us today. He's a doctoral scholar at XLRI. He's a learning and change specialist, and he's done awesome work publishing case studies and presenting papers in various international conference and national conference, of course. And he's speaker in many, many forums. Actually, he's a well sought after speaker in international and national forums. And we are so lucky that we have both Rohit and Subhashish coming in today to share their experiences in a short while from now. To help you walk you through the agenda, right? We'll first try and understand and demystify this meaning of the word facilitation. What is facilitation? And then we'll go on to look at an application, a facilitated application for us to all contribute. We'll look at some leadership challenges today. And what better than a time now when the world is thinking about hybrid, face-to-face, maybe virtual. So how do you blend all of this and therefore what leadership challenges might exist. So we'll have a look at that and we'll try and work some solutions for them. And then we will bring all of that, bringing our panelists in to share their experiences around the same topic. So that's what we have in store for us today. And for that next few minutes, let's go in and let's talk about what is facilitation. So also to share with you, we will be using on Zoom, we'll be using the chat function, the poll function as well. And we'll also use some breakout rooms for those who are connected on Zoom. Those who are with us on Facebook Live, there would be some activities where we will request you to put in your thoughts on the comment box and we will discuss, we will bring it into the Zoom room and discuss it as well. Other than that, we also plan to use two external applications, one being Menti and the other being Mural. So stay tuned, we are going to work with all of these. Back to our thoughts, what is facilitation, right? So I'm going to request my colleague Ramuna, who is helping me, and she's going to post on chat the link to Menti. If you are familiar with it, you could also go to www.menti.com and type the code that you see on the screen, 18121856, and you will move to the Menti screen where you will be answering a question, what is facilitation? And then we'll share all your thoughts with the entire group once we have all the answers in. Right, so please go ahead, click on the link that you see on the chat, or directly go to menti.com and type the code 18121856. That should take you to that screen. And you can enter multiple answers if you like, up to 3 answers. So let's just wait and see what comes up, and then I'll ask Remy to share her screen as well. Okay. All right, I can see a few alphabets coming in. So please go ahead and you can type in a phrase or up to three different phrases on menti.com. And as you type in, we can start to see what people are thinking about what is facilitation. There we go, sharing insights, presenting, sharing knowledge. Let's wait for a few more responses. All right, there we got that. Some more, please, for sharing. Discussions. Listen versus speaking, presenting, engaging, making it easy. Content neutral. Okay, group wisdom. All right, to deliver your knowledge. Promoting group learning. All right, safe space to share, enabling others. We're hearing some very amazing words there. Okay, I'm going to keep that open for another 30 seconds. We have a few more people joining us along the way. So if you can connect to menti.com, the code is there on the screen, and you can type in your thoughts as well. We'll keep this open for maybe another 30 seconds and see what else is coming in. All right, beautiful. So we get harvesting, facilitating thoughts. Okay. All right, so you have lots of thoughts, and this was the baseline for us as we enter into demystifying facilitation. We thought we'll take a baseline of what we are thinking currently. Thanks, Ramuna, and if you can stop sharing your screen, I'll get back to mine. All right, so that was a little series of things that are people were thinking of. Let me actually take you into what the definition of facilitation is as defined by Roger Schwartz. Roger Schwartz is known to be one of the best facilitators. He works very closely with the International Association of Facilitators. He also works very closely with the Institute of Cultural Affairs. He is renowned. He's written a lot of books around facilitation as well. And he says group facilitation. So first of all, facilitation is a technique which you use amongst groups. So it's not a one-on-one conversation. It's always working in groups. And it's a process in which a person there is a facilitator whose selection is acceptable to all the members of the group, which means that he comes across as a person who is accepted by every single participant. Nobody holds anything against that person, nor does he feel extremely favored by that person. So in that way, he is substantively neutral and who has no substantive decision-making authority, right? So that's a very important factor as well. And what does that he or she as a facilitator, what do they do? Diagnoses and intervenes to help a group to improve how it defines and solves problems and make decisions, right? So whether it is to identify, to solve and make decisions, to do any of these, a facilitator intervenes, and what he or she does is to help increase the group's effectiveness. So that's the core as a definition. A little more about that we will discover as we go. So leading from there, Gary Rush, who's another renowned facilitator who's published lots of books and articles around facilitation, he tried to define the role of a facilitator. And he said, a facilitator is a content neutral task leader who forms a group of people into a collaborative team, supporting consensus and using a range of processes to enable the group to accomplish their task. Simply said, besides the aspect of being content neutral and bringing teams together to get to consensus, the interesting part is that a facilitator can deploy a range of processes. To be able to do that, there are three very broad elements, right? Knowing the range of processes that one can use, then being able to do it, right? So knowing, doing, and eventually if the person has to bring the group together and support consensus, they'll have to live that facilitative practice, which means knowing, doing, and being of a facilitator is very, very critical if you want to use facilitation skills effectively. That's a lot about what we have been talking about facilitation, but let's go in and apply this and see how it works for us. So we will attempt to deploy a facilitation process in which, being content neutral, I'm not going to be sharing what are the possible solutions, but all of you are. And what we are going to be doing is looking at some research that has already happened, which we had done some research, and we had also collated research what other organizations worldwide have done. And those thoughts that came in is what we published regarding what leaders have been reporting as challenges. And they broadly reported two categories of challenges, one caused by the external environment, meaning outside their work or outside their team or outside their group, and the other being the internal environment, which means the needs of the workforce. Right? So what we realized is that though this book was written before the pandemic further intensified these challenges and actually made this book even more relevant. In fact, the sales after the pandemic really shot up, which probably says why people want to read a lot more about it. And I would welcome you to look at it. If you feel like buying the book, you could do that. Remuna has put in that link on the chat in case you wish to do so. A great recommended reading if you really want to be a great facilitator. Let's look at what those research findings are. I'll quickly share that and then move over to the activity that I've been promising. So from the internal environment, right, when we look at that, the working style is something that's become a question mark, right? Is it going to be virtual? Is it going to be back in person? Is it going to be a combination or a hybrid as we call it? So we're going to look at that. lot of internal environment situations show that people actually have moved down the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right at the bottom, a person really feels that they want to be safe and secure. That's their first need, basic need. And as you move up, right up to the state of self-actualization, that would be the ultimate. But we see that more and more people are actually looking at more of safety and security, right? And that has been happening consistently over a period of time during this situation. And the other very strange thing that we found was that leaders said that their second line that used to make decisions in the past have become very reluctant to make decisions. And many of them cited various reasons, either a fear of taking ownership of their decision, or not sure about what they want to say because they don't really know what's happening in the market. Different reasons why they're reluctant to make decisions. They also realize that leaders realize that in the current situation, different people have different perspectives, and that makes it very difficult for understanding the holistic picture in one person's brain, right? So that's something that came out. And the other thing that a lot of people have been talking about, and I'm sure many of you have sensed it and agree with it, that the business strategy and the business models are also changing to suit the needs of the day, which leads to changing of goals and targets. And this entire set of leadership challenges, which are internal, leaders are really grappling with it. The other part is the external side. And in the external side, you have perhaps some things which most of you realize very, very clearly. Market direction being uncertain, increased competition around product, services, and also talent. The expectation of a lot of attrition and a lot of movement of talent is likely to happen. Collaboration has moved beyond organization boundaries. It's no longer like collaboration between different teams and different business units, but there are companies working with their so-called competitors or outside their domain area, working together and collaborating to create new products, new services. And needless to say, all leaders practically, and this came out as 100%, innovation being the need of the hour. And it is amazing to talk about innovation, no doubt, but at the same time, customer needs are unclear. So what do you innovate around? That's another challenge that came up, and technology playing its role and disrupting a lot of things puts the leaders under pressure. And of course, mergers and acquisitions are on the rise. Right? Where this is heading, what this will cause, what the leaders should be doing or shouldn't be doing, that's a challenge. So now I'm actually going to introduce you to a hybrid workforce challenge, which we are talking of, this leadership challenge, which we have seen. Given these challenges, let's actually attempt to find solutions together. The diverse group that is connected today, I think we will be able to put our thoughts together and find some things that perhaps will work for us. So I'm going to place a link right now on the chat panel that would take you to a mural. So I'm going to request you to click on the link. Don't start working yet, but you can open the link so that you're ready to work there. And you'll find that a few questions are there, and I'll share with you just what to do in a moment. So the link is there on the chat for people to click on that and open that window. You can enter the mural anonymously if you like. You don't need to sign up or register. So you could work anonymously. You will also be put into breakout rooms. So my colleague Remuna is going to create some breakout rooms. We're going to be giving you 15 minutes in the breakout rooms. The idea of creating you and moving you into breakout rooms is so that you can have small discussions among that small group and start to put in your ideas into the mural. In the mural, you will see that the internal challenges and external challenges that I just spoke about are already populated there. But these are the questions which I need your help in. Add any other challenges that you may have come across. So you could drag in some more post-its and add there. Then the question which you need to reflect on is, how does this make the leaders feel? So we want to touch that emotional side of leaders. How do you think the leaders are actually feeling because of these challenges? The third question, which is a little bit of your interpretation coming in, what is the impact that these challenges are causing to either the team or the organization, or perhaps even to the leader himself or herself? And finally, the last question there, which is really more like your thoughts. What action should the leaders take to deal with this situation that they are in? So these are the questions. So you have 15 minutes to work on that. And once you are done, we will share the mural in this space itself, so everyone can also look at what everyone else has commented. So I'll just pause to see if there are any questions before you want to go in to work on the mural. Questions regarding the task on hand. Okay, we can share the link again. Yes, Saurabh, I saw your message. Here's the link again. So Ramuna, if I can request you to open the breakout rooms for 15 minutes, please.
Opening it now. Yep, done.
Thank you. If anyone has any difficulty joining the room, you should receive a pop-up. If you click on join, you will automatically move into the breakout room. So Bindu, Farrell, and Hasib, any difficulty in joining your breakout rooms? Vikram, Bisaka, any help required for you to join the breakout room?
Sanjay, I got dropped out and got into this room. How do I go back to the main other room?
I'll just put you back in, Subhashish, into the breakout room, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just do that.
Sorry, Sanjay, I got dropped out. And
No problem.
I'm not able to go back over there.
No problem at all. Remina will just add you to the breakout room.
Yeah, I've got it now. I've got it.
You got it?
Perfect. All right. Right after this is the panel. So you get some insights.
Final 30 seconds, Sanjay.
Okay. All right, so welcome back, everyone. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. So this was like a very, very quick demonstration of involving everyone. I know we haven't done enough justice, but it was more like a little demonstration to see how you can use facilitative process or methods. But let's have a very quick look at what came up. So I'm just sharing my mural screen, the one where you have put in all the additional information. So I can see a few more things that have got added, which is great. So how to establish social connect to the new joinees, connecting with the team and stakeholders. These are some additional challenges that people have seen. Then we have effectively connect with people selectively, I guess. Similarly, when we look at how leaders feel, I think lots of thoughts there, communication skills, uncertainty, fear, holding themselves back, a lot of that. Then we're looking at the impact that it has caused, and this could be a pretty big one, where we are seeing a few interesting thoughts there. Teams lack alignment and camaraderie. Moving down, of course, there has been loss of personal connect. I think that is being felt by a lot of people. Bureaucratic styles are coming back in action. We are seeing a lot of discrimination happening. We are also seeing cohesion becoming a challenge and plenty other things there as well. And when we look at some suggested leadership actions, right, structured performance conversation, conducting more participative meetings, trying to create a one voice, create purpose-driven organization. That's a huge challenge right now. Open and honest conversation across levels, enabling transparent and effective communication. Take structured meetings where connection and efficiency is met, feedback giving, receiving, encouraged, differences are welcome and addressed. Creating a system where frequent team meetings once a week at least is being done. Training the people managers on empathy, leading to building trust. Wow, I mean, lots of great ideas there, lots of good suggestions, a lot of interesting thoughts that have come up there. Thank you for sharing that. When we think about it, the answer to all these different actions that you are taking, and you'll know more about it as you go a little deeper into facilitation, but effectively what you're saying is if leaders could use their facilitation skills, involve people, talk to more people more often, get information from them, I think that's what everybody is referring to, which effectively means how do you help leaders use more facilitative practices. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. But what we are going to do is to take a very quick poll before we move into the panel discussion. The poll we are actually going to do using chat itself, because I realize that a lot of people are really struggling with some of the Zoom features. So the way we will do it is this question: how effectively do you see leaders using facilitation skills with their teams right now, right? In your wherever areas of work that you are, or whichever groups you associate with. The 5 options there, and you can type the number on the chat, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You find probably leaders not using facilitation at all, or using it but not very effective, somewhat effective, fairly effective, or absolutely effective. We'll actually have a look at the chat to see what people think about the current level of usage. I'm going to encourage every one of you to type on the chat, please. Okay, we can see, okay, we have 1 at 5, we have 3 others at 2 right now, 1 at 4. That's so encouraging to see a 5 and a 4. Lots of 3s and 2s. Okay, wow. Okay, so it looks like we are mostly hovering around the 2 and the 3 mark. I'm so happy not to see any 1s there. It means that leaders are trying to use facilitation skills where possible. Okay, any more responses to come in? Maybe another 10 seconds. Okay. Okay, we have a lot of tools, which means people are using it, but they're not very effective. Okay, we'll see what the panel has to say about that. I see a few threes which say somewhat effective. Happy to see a 4 and a 5 as well. But I think we will now go over to our panel discussion. Okay, we got another response in at a 2 again. Okay. All right, so it seems like most of us are gravitating around the 2, which means they are using it, but they are perhaps not very effective. You know, that kind of connects back. The knowing part, they perhaps know, but the doing and being, they might be struggling with. That's an assumption I'm making right now, but just leaving that there, and we'll see what our panelists have to say about it. So I'm going to stop my screen share, and I'm going to invite our 2 panelists, first of all, Rohit and Subhashish, and I'll request my colleague to get them pinned so that they can be on the spotlight. And over to you, Rohit. First of all, if you can do a slightly more detailed introduction of yours and particularly talk about your own thoughts around facilitation as a very generic thing before I come to the questions itself. And then after Rohit, we'll have Subhashish share his thoughts as well. Over to you, Rohit.
Great. Thanks, Sanjay. So I've been a part of the consulting world. I've been a part of organizations as well. And for the last 4 years, I'm actually using facilitation as defined by Sanjay today quite a bit. And a lot of the credit goes to a professional organization that both Sanjay and I am also a part of, called the International Association of Facilitators. I'm proudly wearing a IAF coat as well. It's almost like a home for me and a kind of a tribe. It's a group of people across 65 countries across the world who are passionate about content neutral facilitation and use that with their work with clients, with their work internally within organizations, and so on. So I started using it for some of the internal conversations in organizations. Everybody has these engagement surveys, and then after the survey, you don't know what to do with the survey. So I use these content neutral methods to get people together and discuss the impact and so on, and trained other HR business partners to do that and so on. And then that worked really well. People started taking ownership of things, started taking, they really liked the conversations and so on. And then they started taking it to leadership teams, and leadership teams, it helped in aligning new leaders at different points of time in organizations. Leaders come in with different kind of mindsets and so on. So using in-depth facilitation to really get them to open up, discuss with each other, gain role clarity, do needs and offers with other teams, and really connect to the values and the purpose of the organization. A lot of things are unsaid, and facilitation can bring a lot from the realm of unsaid into what is obvious. The difference also is that in training, for example, you are on a pedestal and you tell people what is to be done, something like what I'm doing right now. But in facilitation, it's more the group wisdom comes together. So everyone is on the same platform. Everyone, the facilitation I say is, to use a Hindi word, bahana, for people to come and get together and actually have a conversation and discuss increasingly tough challenges as well. So I don't know, Sanjay, if that does justice to what you wanted to do as opening remarks, but want to hand that over to Subhashish or Sanjay, back to you.
Absolutely. Over to you, Subhashish. Thanks, Rohit, for sharing your thoughts. Subhashish, you're on mute, so if you could unmute and share your thoughts.
Sorry, I think it takes a while because of the internet connection to unmute and share.
No problem there.
Thanks, Rohit, for sharing that. And echo many thoughts that Rohit talked about. And Sanjay, I think the way, at least my understanding of this domain is, as an organization, I think we have been trying to toy with this idea of group facilitation since 2011, 2010, 11, and on that time. I think one of the critical things is, in terms of, like, to build on what Rohit said, it's a bahana for, in that sense, in Hindi he talked about, right? I think, to my mind, there is this thing about this famous book about nudge theory, right? Thaler won a Nobel for that. To my mind, facilitation is a nice nudge to a group of people to ensure that they really get their wisdom and they own a lot of interventions which is meaningful for them, right? So in essentially, what I've seen when leaders are not very insecure, and that's something that leaders probably, and in this environment, perhaps more need to work on that, or some of them are working on that. I think that's when facilitation really comes to the fore, because come to think of it, facilitation actually challenges some of our existing wisdom. Because if you look at from our childhood and you look at how our behavior has been reinforced, we have always been appreciated for content. Whether be it an exam, whether be it achieving something, you know something. So knowing is a big thing in society, especially in an Indian society, I would have to say. When you know something and you do something, then you get a first prize, you get a 50 marks, you get a tick over there. So that behavior is a linear behavior which has been enforced over a period of time. Now, here is somebody who has all along been appreciated, all of us, and then you got a job, you're doing well because you're appreciated for your domain and expertise. And then we are kind of saying that, okay, now I take away something from you. You're not really being appreciated or recognized for your domain knowledge, and you're banking on others. In fact, that's a leadership challenge that leaders get also struggle with, right? As people move up the so-called proverbial corporate ladder. I think to that extent, facilitation is a great nudge if people are able to appreciate that and work on their own mindset to start off with. I have seen it work with leaders very well, where people have made peace with the fact that ultimately the tool overall, facilitation, if I were to call a tool, because people look at tools, it's a mindset thing first. If they have managed to kind of live with that, there have been decent results. There are leaders who have not been able to do that and have gone back to the traditional way of I know best, and the results have been mixed. There is no doubt in that. And fair to say, I think this struggle is more significant in HR professionals than in talent professionals, more so in learning professionals, because their behavior has been reinforced, like I would say our behaviors have been reinforced, right? Content in school, college, whatever, post-graduation, again in job, you're expected to know a lot of things. But the fact that the definition of knowledge itself has changed, because if you look at any behavioral theories per se, the way it is looked at, when the underlying context itself has changed with the advent of technology and the way knowledge is available, quote unquote knowledge, then it is very, very, I would say, it makes people extremely insecure in this world. So if people are comfortable with that, then group facilitation really nudges the system and gets the best in the system. Yeah, I think long answer to a short question.
Lovely thoughts there. I think that sets the pace because it also establishes how well you know this domain of facilitation. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to open a question to either of you. I mean, you can choose, maybe perhaps both of you could then take a shot at it. I'd like to hear about some experiences that you've come across where leaders have used facilitation successfully, or even situations where they missed using a chance of facilitation, and perhaps, what have they experienced out of it? So any kind of situations, and you can keep it as clear as you can, or if you need to not share some names or domains, we fully understand that, but maybe some real situations and all different kinds of situations where you've seen the use of facilitation.
Rohit, go ahead, please.
Okay, so Subhashish tossed the ball over to Rohit. Okay, all yours, Rohit.
Yeah, so the situation that comes to my mind is this of an annual, you have these annual offsites, and a large offsite with lots of people coming in, and you have conference-like discussion. Everybody is ready to eat well and then sleep, or just sleep in the meetings and then have a nice drink and so on. So that paradigm was changed with the CEO that I worked with, and you're extremely aware of the kind of outcome that we want and how we want people to behave in the conversation, so much to the extent of what will be the seating in each of this. It has to be a U seating with, imagine a CEO doing this, U-shaped seating with this much difference, distance between people. I'll be standing here, someone else will be doing that. For this conversation, this is how it needs to be. For that other conversation, this is how it need to be, and so on. So that leadership connect goes support goes a long way in doing that. And then all of the conversations where there was a plenary and small group discussions coming together, and even the informal connects, like for breakfast, there were a group of people who were kind of responsible for X number of tables, ensure conversations happen, ensure that people mix between departments, and so on. And the entire 2 day was such that there are a lot of interactions with people, sharing of experiences, breaking of boundaries of old and new, tech and non-tech, and so on. And that had a brilliant kind of a trickle-down effect. Otherwise, whatever you did there, why don't you do it with us, kind of thing. So I think that's a great example of facilitative methods done well at the top level within the organization, and then trickling down. It's not a perfect story of after this everything went well kind of thing, but it did establish that there is a method, everyone can be involved, and conversations, group wisdom will be it is important, and is recognized, and so on. It's not just one person speaking or a few people speaking, kind of thing. So that's by example. Over to you, Subhashish, for any other.
That's brilliant. But before Subhashish, I just want to capture some of the points you mentioned, Rohit. You talked about setting up the space, right? Setting up the space, whether U-shaped seating or cluster seating, and how important that is. You also talked about the desired outcome known by the facilitator or the leader in this case, the CEO in this case, so that he planned everything in line with that, planned the right kind of who should sit beside whom, so that they create that kind of interaction, and then harness the group wisdom. Thank you. I think some very, very brilliant key thoughts about facilitation practices you're already laying out. Thanks for that. Over to you, Subhashish.
So maybe I'll just share one where I have seen this play out in a very diverse audience. Typically, at least in the process facilitation, while in the initial, I think Tyagi is one of the gurus of facilitation, as some of the people in this world would, I think, recognizes. And he made this point, and I remember, and in the earlier days, I used to be very tense before a session, thinking that what would happen. And Tyagi, in his own casual way, would think that as long as you get the lunatics inside the room, they will run the asylum. You don't worry about it. So while on the face of it, it may look very plebeian, but it had a very deep meaning in that sense. And I think he innately trusted people with their content, right? So the example that I will share is in one of our plants, where in Gujarat, it's the oldest plant in Asian Paints, and so it's a unionized plant. Okay? And typically, you use facilitation in a very what should I say, in the corporate environment with white-collar people, etc. This is an incident where the plant was at a stage where we were actually struggling with productivity in the plant. And the reason being, it's a very old 35 years, 40 years plant. And at that point in time, there's hardly any opportunity to kind of make any breakthroughs in terms of productivity, because the diminishing returns were kicking in, because the land is fixed, the machines are fixed. So you cannot really hire more employees. And how do you manage the productivity? And anybody who would have worked in a manufacturing setup at any point in life, they know that dealing with unions and managing a settlement negotiation is one of the so-called difficult areas from a plant professional or a HR professional system. So while the entire team was struggling with this, and that's where probably facilitation would have played a role, involving the blue collar people right from the beginning and trying to get them to leverage some of those areas in terms of, in simple terms, in terms of getting them to create a pride wall, where what did Ankleshwar plant mean for them? So they came up with elements like this plant was known for agility, this plant is known for coming up with new products, etc. And once the pride elements were instilled over there, then okay, saying what is the future imperative for this? Because this is where the company's cost pressures are. What do you think? And the union people getting in tandem with the white collar managers, etc. I could see a lot of ideas that came in. It was owned by them, which helped coming out with one critical part known as group settlement. And what we are talking about, group productivity settlement, essentially means that till now, if a blue collar person was looked at an individual appraisal for the person, herein they took a target for a particular block. As long as 100 people came in a month, they will produce 3 tons of pay. So the idea was initially at an individual productivity level, probably you would have achieved, let's say 5 to 10% or whatever. Beyond that, the management couldn't have thought through. But here was a case where through facilitation, it came up pretty organically that they suggested that we see, look at this, ki sahab, aap log jo soche, I'm sorry for Hindi, I don't know if you can understand, go to English maybe. Aap log jaise bol rahe ho, this is not going to help. The only way this is going to come up is when you are make this a group target instead of an individual target. The fact that that was a possibility, that is something the management was not aware of. Having seen that up close and having seen some of our colleagues trying it and ensuring that the completion happened was a great opportunity where facilitation definitely worked. I would say that's one thing that I have seen working where across. So basically for me, the learning was that it is not really restricted to any particular education level or category of employees. I think it can be leveraged very well for large community projects as well. I have not been a part of any such thing, but I think it's a wonderful thing which can be leveraged for large community development projects as well.
Wow, awesome. I think that very clearly ties in with letting the inmates run the asylum, right?
Sure, Sanjay.
Absolutely wonderful. I think that reminds me of a little story which was shared by my colleague Vinay, and many of you know Vinay Kumar. He is the global chair of the International Association of Facilitators as well. So he was working with a client, and the person was the head of sales, and he was really struggling with trying to help his team establish their targets and then actually meet them. So when he was sharing that problem, and then that came in the year end, and then it was time for setting the new goals for the team. So he had that little conversation, and then Vinay was asking him, so what number do you have in mind? And so he gave a number saying that can we reach X? And then Vinay said, so, okay, how about asking the team, each of the members of your sales team, as to what's the target that they would like to reach? And this guy was really worried. He says, if we leave it to them, we will not even reach half of X. So we said, why not wait and see? I mean, let's just give it a shot, and then we can always go back and see if we have to change. And then, of course, we gave him that little bit of insight about, if the people themselves set the goal, then they are more likely to achieve it. So he said, okay, let's give it a shot. And he was pleasantly surprised because the last 4 years, they've never met the targets that were set. And this time, collectively, they set a target which was 1.7x, right? 70% more than what the head of sales wanted. That is what was not only set, it actually got met, despite the challenges because it was just at the time when COVID set in and all of that. But in spite of all of that, the team really pushed hard. They worked really crazy hours and all of that to get it done. So probably it reinforces the point that you let the inmates run the asylum. And when they are there, ask them what they think they can do, and then let them take ownership of delivering it. So great examples there. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any challenges that you are seeing where leaders might be struggling with facilitation, right? Maybe perhaps there are incidents that didn't work out, or it didn't get them what they wanted. Any thoughts on that?
Maybe I can share one. I would not say leaders, and Rohit can build on that. Okay. I think, see what happens, especially when we get introduced to facilitation, we are very overjoyed with the tools that's available. And I think that's an area to work on, because I remember there was this session where I think we were having a diversity forum, and we had the CEO and whatever CEO minus one, minus two, everybody in that in a large auditorium. And there was some discussion which was happening. I remember Tom Alter is no more. He was a panelist in one of the discussions on the stage. So, and it was supposed to be a soliloquy where the person will speak on his own and then we will build on something. While Tom Alter, in all seriousness, was doing this, I remember one of our colleagues, all of a this magic spray is something which has become contagious. 3M has sold more than that than they would have imagined. All of a sudden, I could hear shh, and the hall is pin drop silence. The idea was the person came because this person, the person's boss would have said that this is something we will leverage. In the person's mind, the tool was so significant, it couldn't wait for the discussion to get over. So I'm saying the tool is just a tool, whether it's a breakout room, whether it's a post-it, whether it's a, say, effort impact matrix. I think that cannot, the point is, are you ensuring that people are able to have quality are you setting up that space in, metaphorically, that space in more ways than, and are you comfortable with that? Tools will follow, some tool or the other, whether we are using Mural, whether using Menti.com, something or the other is there. But what happens, people get very intrigued on it, especially it's like, if I have to draw a parallel in HR parlance, when people get introduced to an instrument, let's say somebody does an MBDI or gets certified or whatever, you end up going around and administering it to everybody and anybody without really understanding the context. And the same person goes through 10 inventories all over the place. So, and in an organization, you have 10 inventories floating around, then there is no common language around the inventory. The same thing with facilitation. I think the thing to watch out for, and I think where I have at least experience in my company in some verticals or the other, maybe myself would have been guilty at certain times, because the fanfare about tools, once it settles down, it is just tools. So it's fine. It is interesting, but let's not go overboard with the tools. And that's something I think maybe we are guilty of using. And sometimes we are guilty of propagating that also to that extent.
Wonderfully put, Subhashish, and I like your humility which you attach yourself to it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Rohit, any thoughts from your side on it?
Yeah, I can completely relate to this, and I've been guilty myself. When I got my first sticky wall, which is like a online version of the offline version of a mural, I used to put that up for all meetings and then bring those colored papers and put that on the wall and encourage people. But it doesn't work if people don't have the right mindset, if you're not prepared the group for it, if the leader is not on board, and so on. What also happens a lot of times is not facilitation, but manipulation in the name of facilitation, called fascipulation. So you already have an end outcome. The leader has an end outcome. He says, "Kisi tarah logon ko manwa do." Get people to come to that end outcome, which I've already decided. So that's not group wisdom; it's group manipulation. And that doesn't work. That's not real facilitation. Group wisdom has to emerge, and it's a very human thing. So you don't know what actually emerges at the end of it. So that's why when we look at facilitation, we always say desired outcome. The actual outcome could be very different from the desired outcome, but we go with the desired outcome and we look at both what is the substantive outcome, as in you want an end outcome to look at, for example, the example that Sanjay just gave, you want the goals to be done. You don't want those numbers to be populated. There's also another desired outcome, which is how do you want the team to leave after that? So sense of being one, sense of being supported, sense of one strong team or whatever. So those two aspects are what we go in with for a conversation, have the leader really on board. I've had situations very recently where I was told about this facilitation situation, very senior leaders, but the leader was not available because he was traveling. And without getting the leader's point of view, it would have been a failed conversation. Somehow got him in between his trip from France to London, and got some minutes of his and got a lot of perspective. And then the leadership alignment session went really well. If I had skipped that step as a facilitator while wearing the hat of a facilitator, then that session would have been doomed, because you don't have the leadership buy-in. So a lot matters what you're doing before the session. Do you have your objectives? Do you have your leaders aligned to it? And what happens after the facilitation, as much as what happens in the conversation. So that's what I have to say, Sanjay. Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful. I think Subhashish also brought out the challenges very well. I mean, we all overuse tools at times, and we have all been guilty of that. It's really about minimizing, not, I wouldn't even say minimizing, but optimizing what's the best process that will work, which will be the best way for it, what's the kind of audience we have, if they are familiar, not familiar, so on. So even choosing which tools you need to use, when you need to use, I think so critical. Thank you for bringing that. And I love what you said, Rohit. Facilitations actually, there is a before, during, and after, and all of it is the job of the facilitator. And it's not just that during, right? So, and that's so relevant. If you don't set the stage before and don't set all the expectations very clearly, when people come into the room, then you actually want their wholehearted participation. So you might not get that if you don't do the pre part very well. And the post is equally important, because it's fine to say things in the room and mark things out, but then do they actually get implemented when they get back? I think so very critical. And I think that's a beautiful question that you also shared, Rohit, which is you ask people how you want them to leave the room, right? That's so very important, because a facilitator can set that up if they use the right processes and the right techniques. If you want to leave them energized, you want them, sometimes you may choose, you want them to feel threatened or feel uncomfortable, and that might be a choice. And so a facilitator can actually help set the mood before, during, and after. So absolutely brilliant thoughts there. I think very, very well put. Now, taking it one step deeper, right? How could leaders build this facilitation culture in organizations? Right? It's not, okay, one is the leader can himself, herself learn great facilitation and do it and role model it as well. But how do they, or what can they do to really bring this as a culture in their teams, groups, organizations? Any thoughts on that?
Would you like to go first, Subhashish? Or
You go ahead, Rohit. R comes before S, so to that
yeah. So, great point, Subhashish. One of the things is setting up the rules for facilitation, and R comes before S. If setting that up would help, it's just an example of a rule which is only true in the world that we are creating right now. So, one of the things that facilitators do is create a world in which there are certain rules or ways of working, and then you work as per that within the session. So that's an aside. But coming back to Sanjay's question, I think one tip would be start where you are. For example, I've recently had this experience of even the organization only does town halls, but even those town halls can be done, the leaders can do that in a very facilitative manner. So the town hall, as the town hall is going on, there are buttons which say love, like, neutral, dislike, disagree. So you can, at the same time, there is a lot of conversation going on. There's real-time conversation. People have put in their names in that, real-time reactions, real-time questions. The leader is not the only one speaking. There's time for the other people also to speak in the conversation. There are other people who are also introduced. So that's just a way to give the message that it's not just tell, but you have a group of people, you've got the wisdom coming in, and you're all part of it together. I think that's one of the key elements to start off with. Second, recognizing facilitation within the organization, wherever it's happening, having more discussions in a facilitative manner, getting more people internally trained as facilitators, and so on, is something that's you need to create that culture, and I think that's what works well. Another thing that I've personally learned is one of the ways to really build a behavior for yourself is get into a group where that behavior is the norm. For example, if I want to get up early, then join a group where getting early is the norm for that group. So naturally, you become a part of that. So also be a part of groups where facilitation is the way of work, way of life. For example, in the IT world, Agile and Scrum, they do a lot of retros. They do after action discussions and so on. So that's a lot of facilitation skills being used there. So get them more to the limelight, get them to also solve other challenges, upgrade the capability of the Scrum team itself, and so on. I think those are some things that we can do. And I would say start with crawl, walk, run, and then go and sprint. You might not be able to do all of this in a day, but start where you are, start using facilitation methods, and keep building on that. And each of us can be the OD, L&D, change management community can be folks who really advocate this within the organization and champion it, evangelize it in the organization.
Oh, very, very valuable, Rohit. Thanks for sharing that. Subhashish, would you like to add to what Rohit just talked about?
I think Rohit pretty much covered it. If there's any specific queries, would be happy to take. Otherwise, I think Rohit pretty much covered the entire gamut to that extent on this particular.
Right. So I think one specific question to build on that, and I'm also trying to tie it in with the kind of work you're doing in your doctorate on organizational behavior. Are there any behaviors that if leaders exhibited, it might help drive that facilitation culture? So just to sum that, Rohit talked about, how, of course, he talked about creating ways of working, which was a rule in facilitation. But he talked about how joining facilitation groups might help that. He talked about how to build a larger pool of facilitators, get them trained or get them developed, and then starting from where you are, right? So he talked about these concepts. So from the leader's point of view, to enable these, there could be some behaviors which you may be thinking of, which might be great for leaders to kind of, live that, which might drive the facilitation culture. Any thoughts around that, Subhashish?
Yeah, Sanjay, if I have to say, I think I just think about WIIFM, right? That's something what we often use in facilitation or whatever. I think if this part is understood well by whether it's the internal consultant or the external consultant who is interfacing with the line leader, basically this what's in it for me for the leader needs to be very clear to the person. If that person is able to have an equal conversation to get that what's in it for me as clear and tangible as it is, I think then the onus about how to make whatever the person is looking for, so basically the compelling purpose has to come over there, and whether facilitation fits in any of those interventions. Let's say somebody is trying to create a vision. Okay, then when you go further, you try to understand, okay, what's the understanding of that vision? If somebody says, I already have a set of statements which I want to put on the board for which I need facilitation, then like I think Rohit was talking about, then you don't need it. You already have something you just want people to know. But if somebody says, no, I want to create an inclusive way in which everybody owns up what my values are, what my vision is, then definitely, yes, you have a problem. Then you have a discussion to do with the leader. And what the leader needs to do is, that's the question, Sanjay. I think I suggested to, Sarah when we were in the other room. I think the leader needs to hold the space and create a psychologically safe environment. It's easier said than done. And so elements like, because there's a lot of owners, and I, at least maybe not related to directly about facilitation, but in my interaction with various leaders in the interviews, whatever, not essentially with Asian Paints itself, but with outside, I think many leaders putting this strong onus on everything rests with the individual. That's the language they use. They said if the individual wants, they can change the world. Okay, fair enough. Absolutely, individuals can make a difference. Nothing taking away from that individual merit. But if you look at an individual working in an organization, there's a person organization fit that matters. There's a person job fit that matters. There's a person supervisor fit that matters. How can you take out the supervisor out of this equation? That supervisor is a strong integral link to this. And the invitation for creating a psychological safety rests with the leaders. And does it take away the strong pinch of accountability? No, it doesn't. But the fact is that whether that invitation to create that space where people would be able to share their views, have their views counted for, not essentially that when you give them an opportunity to share that everything will happen in the way, because just one, like my colleagues over here, to be mindful, at least what I've seen, sometimes in organization, you may not be able to do complete pure play process facilitation. even as external consultants. So if that is not the case, as long as you're transparent and you're chasing some outcome, the idea is, let's say one of the outcomes is I want people, sub outcomes is I want people's views. Whether everything will be counted or not, I'm not very sure. Let's say the leader says. But as long as you lay out a principle, at least you give people an opportunity to speak. So psychological safety also is something like, it's not like if people say everything needs to be considered. No, that's not the idea. But the idea is, did you give the person an opportunity to share that or not? To my mind, an environment of a space where people are secure in sharing their views. Otherwise, you can have as many sticky walls over there. But if the leader is sitting in the room and I am threatened, I don't know where I stand, whether it's going to impact my appraisal, I am not going to paste that posted over there. So I will not. So that space creation activity is something that's more in the leadership development work, I would say. But I think that's something the leaders need to probably be cognizant of. And that's
wow. Another really powerful insight. They need to create that psychological safety and be so transparent that people can share. I mean, like you said, sharing, collecting all the information, and finally I can decide, but at least I get all the views, right? So I think that's such a powerful.
The point is, Sanjay, as long as you share the outcome, that this is as long as the outcome of the session with the audience is shared, that I'm sure whether, let's say the outcome is, I don't know whether I can, let's say a policy workshop, right? You want to do a policy workshop, everything under the sun can come. But you can say that some things will be considered and maybe we work with certain set of people with this input. I'm saying make it clear upfront, share that, and according, there may be a case where you will consider all inputs. That also is possible. I'll give an example about this place. I think one of my other partners was sharing about this place in Auroville in Pondicherry. And it's a place where I think a lot of fantastic work happens. And I think there was, while a lot of good work happens, one of the things that they had agreed upon that if they want to make any change, everybody needs to opine on everything. Then only they'll make a change. So while a lot of good things happen, there are some agendas which are left for the last 20, 25 years because everybody has not come to the same page. Now, in a typically capitalist organization, something, the reality is that may not be possible. So then are we clear about what we are chasing? As long as we are doing that, I think we are doing a good job. As long as there is no trying to be saying that I'm holier than thou. And that's why you may need to have external facilitators who will come and challenge some of those thoughts. Sometimes, even if you are skilled, you may not want to do certain things internally. I think that also is something people may want to think of.
Perfect. I think great thoughts there. And thanks for sharing that. I'll ask you perhaps one last question for you and then see if there are any questions from the other participants as well. But if I had to ask you for your recommendation, right, in order to help leaders promote and use more facilitative processes, tools, or generally facilitation skills, what might be that one or two recommendations that you have for them? Right? Maybe this time we'll go with Subhashish first and then go to Rohit.
Sanjay, can you just, your voice cracked a bit. Can you just repeat one?
So what would be your recommendation for people in order to help them use facilitation skills? What might be your one or two recommendations for them?
I think I'll go with what Rohit talked about, some recommendations. They should, I think, immerse themselves in some of the groups where they get to understand some of the best practices. And the second is they should read up more about how the quote unquote learning theories, which the base has actually changed in a connected world and how it can be contextualized, and use their own wisdom and appreciate the context in which they're operating. Everybody else can say this is happening, that's happening, but all of our contexts are different. And I think context is the real king. So appreciate the context, and then you see how we can quote unquote marry the content that you pick up from outside in the manner which is going to be useful for your context. I think that's about it from my side.
Brilliant. Thank you, Subhashish, for those words of advice. Rohit, your thoughts?
So, Sanjay, the thought that comes to my mind is if you ask 10 people what is leadership, everyone will give a different response. So there's no common understanding of what really leadership is. So get leaders to see that if all you have is a hammer, then the world looks like a nail. You can't use the same method over and over again and keep expecting different results or contextualized results for that. And facilitation is not the solution for everything, but a leader as a facilitator has a lot of power. And what you rightly mentioned, there is innovation. Most organizations need innovation, they need agility, they need speed, and a lot of that is possible through facilitation. So make them aware, show them how it can be used. And you could start with very simple things like leaders speak last. So in meetings, if you can make that rule saying leaders speak last to start off with, that itself sparks a lot of conversation within the organization. And then the leaders see, oh, there were some ideas which I would have never considered. And so I should not speak 70% of the time. I should invert that. So I think that could be a start. Books that Subhashish said. Read Sanjay's book here on facilitative leadership. Sanjay, I'm plugging in this for you. So, and there's some great books, and definitely follow Tyagi and get in some facilitators to facilitate sessions and see the power of facilitation. And it also means that you consider people as people, and you consider people as voices, their voices, and just using facilitation makes the environment psychologically safe, and which is as important as physical safety as well, for especially for innovations. Another important point is design meetings really well. We spend so much time in meetings. A meeting can actually make a difference between a great work environment or a bad work environment. So how do you design your meetings? Who leads it? Who facilitates it? What are the methods? Who speaks for how much time? So leaders really being aware of what's the implication that they're having on the team. What is the team going through? Being aware of the team dynamics. I think that those aspects can make a big difference, and slowly get them to learn more about facilitation and tools and so on. Let someone else do it initially, then let the leaders start doing it more and more as they get comfortable. That would be my 2 bits on that.
Fantastic. Super sound advice by both of you. Thank you for that. I realize we are getting close towards the end time, but I just want to see if any of the participants have a question. Perhaps you could type on the chat or even unmute and ask your question. We might have time for maybe one question or maybe two before we move towards the wrap up.
Rohit, do you have, my name is Bindu, and do you have something to share about how do you drive purpose for leaders, especially for people who are working on the management level? How do you drive that purpose for them? Because I'm working with Kotak Education Foundation, and I'm looking forward to training a few HODs. So I sometimes feel they have a miss of the purpose while they are working, and I know that that ground where they're working is not easy for them to hold the whole organization. But I somewhere feel when you're working in an NGO and you're working it's like a very it's like service. I'm working for slum schools where I'm working closely with headmasters. We are into a leadership program, and I see every HOD in an organization in this space needs to have a purpose, and it should be purpose driven, especially in NGOs. So what are some tips or something that you can share where I can just take an input for my trainings?
Sure. Bindu. Thanks for asking that question. So we have at IAF, we have something called the FAC Week, Facilitation Week, and where for a week in October, there are these complimentary sessions that are done across NGOs, corporates, and so on. So we've done one in Delhi for an NGO, and this was the challenge that the NGO folks were not really driven and saying, they were not connected to the purpose. So what was done is some of the beneficiaries were brought in directly. So for example, if they're working with kids, then the kids were brought in and so on. And it helped the people connect back to the purpose, go back into their life and see why did we actually enter this sector? What really got us here 10 years back, 15 years back? What was that big aim that we had individually? What was our purpose, and connecting back to that and saying that every day you can make a difference from that purpose. So through various facilitation methods, you can do that. There's something called Wall of Wonder. There are entire 3-day strategic planning process that you can take through to get purpose reinforced for the entire group or created for the entire group. So those are some methods. I think we don't have enough time to go
Sure,
into
sure.
it, but it's connecting back to with the heart and what really, why did they enter into this, getting back and then seeing all of us want the same thing, and we can make a difference when we are all together and do that. And here is the person that we want to make a difference for. That's why I came into this and spent so much of my life in this, and then they get to connect on that. So I think that's the magic is created there, but it takes time. It's
Yeah,
not
it takes time. Yeah, it's not easy. But yes, thank you so much, Rohit. That was really, really a great insight. Thanks a lot.
Great question, Bindu,
Thank you.
and great thoughts shared by Rohit. On that note, my special thanks to Rohit and Subhashish. We truly value you taking the time and sharing your thoughts with our participants. And of course, my thanks to the participants as well. Just before we close, let me just pull up my screen again for the last time and take you through the close part. So just building on what we just heard, the need to perhaps develop and build on facilitation skills. So that aspect of knowing, doing is quite okay, because you can read about it, you can practice it with some other colleagues, and you can join groups and kind of experience them, which makes a big difference. On the being of a facilitator, you perhaps need confirmation that something of high quality is what you will get. And that is where C2C brings to you an IAF endorsed comprehensive program on group facilitation skills. This goes live online February and March 2022, and registrations are open. So feel free to kind of register if you would like to, or if anyone from your company or your friends group is interested, that would be great. More importantly, I thought I would also introduce you to the International Association of Facilitators, right? IAF-world.org is the website. It's from where you can really learn a lot about facilitation. Even the question that Bindu asked about how do you socialize that purpose? How do you make that belief? There are some methods given in the database there which you could pick up and try. And it's not necessary that you have to be a member to get a few of those processes. They are available for anyone who would like it.
Thank you.
So those are some thoughts towards the end of our day. I also want to do a quick recap of what our two stars, Rohit and Subhashish, have shared. Just the nuggets. They talked about mindset shift, setting up the space, the desired outcomes, creating planned interactions, even in terms of how they are seated, harvesting group wisdom, letting inmates run the asylum, and then that concept of facipulation, which we should not be doing, not really facilitation, tendency to overuse of tools, be aware of that, creating ways of working, join different facilitation groups, train more facilitators, start where you are and then build from there. The concept of what's in it for me, so what's the benefit of facilitation for me, holding space, creating psychological safety, being transparent, and designing meetings. And one last very useful point about consider people as people so that you'll get the best out of them. I think some very, very amazing thoughts have come through. Thank you all for making it happen. And I'll just stay online a little longer in case anyone has any questions. But otherwise, thank you so much for being part of this session and wish you all a lovely week ahead.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks, Rohit. Thanks a lot, everyone. It's nice being here. Thank you.
Thanks, Subhashish.
Same here. Thanks everyone, and thanks Sanjay and Subhashish. A lovely conversation.
Thank you, Rohit.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Sanjay, I wanted to talk about the event for February.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of facilitators who are from IAF and they are certified, but I
Mhm.
definitely would like to know a little bit more about this event and how do we go, what is the structure? Do you want me to go through the website and then maybe have a conversation?
Yeah, so maybe I can, Remina, are you online? Can you just share your contacts so Bindu can reach out to you?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. I was just about to do that. So Bindu, I have your email ID. I'm actually going to send you an email.
Okay.
So, and we can connect and I'll actually kind of tell you more about the program and whatever else you need to know.
Great.
Yeah.
Would be great.
Okay.
So, on my
Yeah.
number, or would you be sending me on my email? You have my email address, right?
Yes, I have your email ID.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And
so
I'll
much.
take your
I'll
number
wait.
as well. Okay.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Take care. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, Bindu. Yeah.
Thanks,
Bye.
Bindu. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for this.
Okay, we have Viresh and Godfrey. If you have any questions, happy to hear you out.
Yeah, hi Sanjay. Thank you. I personally wanted to thank you. It's quite informative session and it's brings really good experience from Sanjay and some other people. So
Thank you,
I
Viresh.
also wanted to have that same question which the other person asked now. If I want to get a detail, so will I be able to get a some
Sure.
contact number or something? But
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
sorry. Go ahead.
Ramana, over to you on that.
Yes. Viresh, you can actually take my number as well. I can share it with you right now. And
Please.
I'll also make sure that I send you an email regarding the program in February. Be happy
Sure.
to do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. My number is 8095
Yeah.
1155
Sure.
82. Ramuna.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah. Feel free to get in touch anytime. And please look for my email in your inbox.
Sure.
Okay. Thanks, Viresh.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Viresh.
For organizing better, wonderful session. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye. Okay, Ramana, if we can
All right.
recording.
Yes, I'm going to stop recording. Great session, Sanjay.